Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next episode of Battle Chads. I am Josh, and I'm here with my co-host Luis.
Hello, hello, hello.
And today we're going to be talking about some exciting cards that we think are exciting from the new set, Aether Drift. But with us, we have a little guest, don't we, Freddie?
Good evening, chat.
Good evening, chat. Freddie, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. A little bit of an introduction about myself. I'm Freddie. I play for Manaleak.com. I'm
Yep.
a renowned brewer in the UK. I've got some accomplishments, like top eight, some one top eight, one regional Pro Tour qualifier, 3 qualifiers, SCG Invitational, top 8 in the UK Red Bull, top 36, the European Red Bull, I think.
Very good. So your like standard is like your format then, because there's a lot of like brewing potential in that format because sets come out, you brew, etc. So you're excited for when a new standard set comes out.
Of course I am, yes.
Good, Luis, how are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. Having a good time, vibing, enjoying the release of this new set coming soon. Aetherdrift is exciting. It's not the set I really am personally the most excited about. But it's cool. It's grown on me a little bit, honestly. There's some neat things on there. I'm excited to try out some of the new mechanics and have some old cards come back, which make me feel real happy.
Yeah, there's some really exciting changes to come into standard, particularly. We're going to focus this pod mainly around standard, but we might talk about other formats, etc. Particularly when we talk about one of the cards we've picked. But like I said, we've picked 5 cards that we're really excited about coming into this new set. We'll talk about why we're excited about them. We'll talk about what they are, etc. But Luis, you did mention there's a new mechanic in the new set.
Yes, there's 2 new mechanics. The one of them is very simple. It's called Exhaust. It's when you use it, that's it. You can't use it again on that specific card or creature. If you ephemerate or blink the creature in some way, you can use it again. Or if you have another copy of the creature, you can use it. That one's quite simple, really straightforward. When you use it, can't use it again on that specific card anymore.
It's a bit like a V-Star ability for those who are into Pokemon.
Stop. Just stop. Okay. And then there's the other mechanic, which is probably the one I'm more excited about because it's interesting. I want to see how it actually works and how often you can get to max speed. Right? It's the start your engine mechanic, which is when you play a card with start your engine, you go to 1 on your speedometer or whatever you want to call it. Yep. And then every time an opponent loses life during your turn, you will go up by 1 speed once per turn. Mm-hmm. So what that means is when you play your start your engine card, if you then deal damage to your opponent on that turn, it will go up. But if you deal damage again on that same turn, it won't go up again. You have to do it, in individual turns. So you can go instantly to 2 on the entry of start your engines as long as something can deal damage. Mm-hmm. But usually you won't get there until turn, 3, 4, or 5, depending on when you play your start your engine card. And they have to lose life on your turn specifically. So it's not always the easiest because a lot of cards kind of make your opponent lose life when something triggers, or they'll be a lot more ready to block your stuff than usual because they don't want you getting to max speed. Because max speed has quite a few different buffs depending on what creatures and what things you're playing. So I'm very excited to see how that changes the dynamic in standard, where you can't just lose life for free all the time anymore. You have to be a little more careful not to lose anything during your opponent's turn.
And usually the buff from Start Your Engines is usually when it reaches level 4, right?
Yeah, the max speed.
Any cards. Yeah, I've not really seen any cards where it's like level 2 does something, level 3 does something, like traditional level up cards like Hex Drinkers and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So, shall we move on to the sort of top picks of what we got?
Yeah, absolutely.
Freddie, do you want to lead with the first one?
The top one, in my opinion, is Spell Pierce.
Okay.
So at the moment, we've got Up the Beam, we've got all the bounce decks. We've also got a lot of Domain as well running around, Sunfall and Wrath of God and Split Up are your 3 main sweepers at the moment, and Temporal Lockdown is the 4th one. And if you can like off balance the domain deck with spell pierce or like up the beanstalk on turn 2, and if you spell pierce that, there's like a massive setback for them.
Yeah. Because a lot of the times, up the beanstalk specifically is one low to the ground answer that if you're on the draw and you have like a spell stutter in hand or a negate or whatever, it's like if you were on you're getting punished for that card for having that counter spell because you're on the draw. Ultimately, this hedges those 2 drops and the bounce decks, because I've always said traditionally with the Esper sort of style bounce decks, their card advantage doesn't come from actually physically drawing cards. Usually, the card advantage comes from looping permanents on the battlefield, bringing stuff from the graveyard sometimes. But that loop is looping stuff into from in play back to your hand, and then that's where your sort of card advantage is. But if you can spell pierce the enchantment, or you can spell pierce the spell that this town's a big enough back that brings those permanents back to the hand, then they're essentially gone for not good, but gone for the turns that matter.
Yeah, it's an important distinction with a 1 mana versus 2 mana card. Something like Spell Stutter or Phantom Interference, they are very strong and they can hit creatures, which Spell Pierce can't. Especially when it comes to like the overlords in the domain decks, you cannot hit them with Spell Pierce. They are enchantment creatures. Even if they're impended, they're still creatures on the stack. However, you'll find that in Standard there's a lot of spots where you will have that extra 1 mana, but you won't have the extra 2 to be able to actually hold up the important counter spells that you want. And Spell Pierce fits that slot really nicely, allows that tempo game, that flash game to be played a little bit better. And it has the upside of being better on the draw, which is something that Standard usually suffers from, where if you're on the play, you have so much advantage because your opponent just can't do anything to stop you. Now, that's why cards like Spell Snare, Pierce, and that kind of effect are so good in other formats. So it's nice to see that Standard now has the choice of Spell Pierce in their arsenal to make that play. It's also a little scary. Decks like the Oculus deck that are very strong and very powerful love a card like Spell Pierce. Because what they often happens to them is they get interacted with and they don't have effective counter spells because they can't afford that much mana. Where Spell Pierce is 1 mana, so really easy to make use of. Stop whatever your opponent's doing to hit your graveyard. You can actually hit that that turn 2 kind of graveyard effect or whatever's going on in that way, which is really, really nice. You can play. Let's say you're on the play. You play your island pass. Your opponent then goes land, instantly drop their graveyard hate. Normally, you have to just let it resolve. There's nothing you can do to stop it.
Ghost Vacuum, for example.
Exactly. Now you can. So it's really effective with that. And like you were saying with the bounce decks loops, they're very mana intensive when they're actually going with that loop. Spell Pierce, it gets right under there exactly when you need it. You can play your threat plus hold a Spell Pierce, which is really important when dealing with bounce, because you can't just hold counterspells for the rest of your game.
Anything to add on Spell Pierce, Freddie?
Not really, no. No, not really, no. I think it's actually going to be really good in the main and the sideboard at the moment, because Domain is one of the most prevalent decks. Up the Beanstalk is that very terrifying card. The bounce decks, again, as you two mentioned, also is kind of good against the red-green or the mono-red prowess decks. Like, if you can just nab their enchantment to give them extra counters or like an Urgrass Forge, while also leaving up like other interaction as well. That is also super backbreaking against those kind of decks as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a card that makes you more aggressive in sort of your Oculus decks, your Tempo decks, etc. Because what you can do is you can play your 1 mana creature, your Siren or whatever, hold the mana up. You don't have to choose, right? Am I going to hold up two mana for a spell stutter or something of that ilk, or am I going to actually present a threat and extend a little bit? And the fact you got one mana interaction, 1 mana permission to be precise, is the fact that you can be more aggressive in your plays. You can take more of a risk. Am I okay with the next creature resolving? Yeah, sure, whatever. I have removal spell in my decks. But am I okay with a spell or an effect? No. So do I really want to play it extended to a creature? Do I want to hold up my spell stop, my 2-mana interaction? Now we can the choice is a lot more simple and a lot more free in that respect.
It's a very, very strong, very interesting, because it definitely smooths the curve on 2 and 3 for these tempo-like decks. But very important to note for everyone that does play these decks is one of the cards that often beats us is the Overlord of the Mistmoors,
Yes.
the white Overlord. This will not hit that. So not having Spell Stutter or Phantom Interference to get rid of that creature can really take effect. Obviously against the domain decks, especially Bant Domain, they usually have Cavernous Soul, so it doesn't matter too much there. But against the mono-white style control decks or that kind of deck, that can come up. So be very aware of the meta and how it shifts when deciding to play Spell Pierce or a stronger, more expensive permission spell.
Yeah. Cool. So that's Spell Pierce. We're really excited about Spell Pierce. I think Spell Pierce is going to be one of the most impactful cards in the standard format. Moving on, Luis, do you want to take over for the next one?
Yep. We have Hazoret Godseeker. This is one of those start your engines cards that we were speaking of. It's a 2-mana red and 1 indestructible haste 5/3, and it has an ability of tap it and pay 1 mana for a target creature with power 2 or less. Can't be blocked this turn. However, she has a huge caveat of you can't attack or block with Hazoret unless you have max speed. Very powerful, very strong card. Usually not the card you want to have on too, but you don't mind it too badly because of the start your engines and getting to hit it early like that. But hopefully what you'll be doing is playing some 1 mana start your engine card and have it go that way so you can curve out a little bit better with your other effective damage creatures. And when you get to turn 4 or 5, when you've reached max speed, you drop Hazoret, you smack him with a 5/3, really hard to remove. You have to use things like Anoint, and it still dies to Nowhere to Run, so don't get me wrong, it has some issues. But I think in these prowess decks where you have pump spells, where you have these kind of effects, you can really make use of her. And it's much harder to remove her with anything else. Your lightning bolt strikes won't do it. Your double shocks, things like that, will not do it. Blocking it obviously doesn't do it. It's a really effective way to push those final points of damage because of that unblockable ability, and it's really, really cool.
So the interesting about this card, this is not a card I look at and I think I'm going to curve out into this. This is like a turn 3 card minimum, because what you do is you play this card, then you activate it because it's got haste, so you can tap it and activate it. Then you get the start your engines from turn 3. You then give one of your other creatures that played in turn 1 or turn 2 unblockable, and then you're up to start your engines to 2 already on the turn. Then it comes out. That means turn 4, turn 5, then Hazoret's online. And if it does get answered or removed, you play the next one. If you choose to play more this kind of multiples, but yeah, Freddie, where would you see this deck being played?
Mainly in all like the mono red or red X aggro decks, like the prowess deck or the red green decks. Maybe in the delirium, like the red green delirium deck, like in the sideboard, like against like the super like sloggy matchups on the ground. Because if you can just give one of your creatures like the double strike with Violent Urge, and you can go make one of my creatures unblockable with the FOMO trigger and like the Urge, you can just like one shot the opponent in 1 turn.
Yeah. So you can really hedge a super aggressive game plan, almost like the combo-esque aggression. You're doing your combo in with the FOMO, etc. Make an evasive threat, back it up with cantrips, etc.
And a really cool about Hazoret is think about her is she targets, right? So it affects your Valiant creatures, which are the most played creatures right now in the red decks. So your Heartfire hero can now become a 2/2 or a 3/3 and unblockable for those 2 specific turns, and then you can dump a bunch of pump spells into it, not fearing that it's going to get blocked, which is great. Or with your what's it called, Ember Heart Challenger, the 2/2. Perfect. It works exactly for what you want it to do. You attack with your prowess creature, unblockable, and then you pump it a bunch with all the prowess triggers, and it's still unblockable at that moment because it's already been targeted. Fantastic way to use it.
Reading this, it says target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So if you target your Valiant creature, it becomes a 3/3 on resolution. Does this effect happen? because you can't, because it's met the targeting requirements, which is 2 or less.
Oh, it's a good question.
So
You
does it
can.
get unblockable if it then the Valiant trigger happens, so it goes to 3? I'm
It
reading
depends.
it.
I have to see if it actually
I don't
on resolution if it works. I know for the first trigger it's fine. For the second one, when it becomes a 3/3, it might not be. I'll have to double check.
Target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked at this turn. So you target the creature with power 2. So that's the condition of the target.
You could usually do it in a different way, I guess. You could go pump spell first and then target with Hazoret with the Valiant trigger on the stack, and then you can get around that way.
I'm wondering if like the actual can't be blocked thing resolves. It'd be interesting.
Yeah, because if the creature is bigger than the effect after the effect has already taken place, it still won't be blocked because it's already unblockable, and that's how that would read. But in terms of on the stack becoming bigger, I think it probably checks in resolution. That would be my gut feeling on that. We'll have to double check on that.
Yeah, because the condition of target is if it was target 3 before you tried to target, you couldn't actually target it because it's a target creature power.
Yeah, like a fizzle of some sort, like kind of like a cut down, right? You can target it when it's smaller, and then when it gets bigger, cut down fizzles because it's no longer that small.
It'd be interesting to see how that actually works out when the set releases. Actually, Modo will tell us, or someone in the chat will tell us. Because
absolutely, YouTube comments love to yell at people, so don't you worry.
Yes, give me it. Anything else to add on Hazoret, Freddie, before we move on?
No, not it. Maybe the Rakdos Sacrifice decks can play it.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be a good way. Have an indestructible creature. It's pretty good to sacrifice when you just want to go over the top with a Callous Sellsword.
So,
of course,
yeah.
Freddie, you brought the next card to us because this is what you're excited about.
I am.
Which is Siege Rhino?
No, Debris Beetles. So yes, kind of like a Siege Rhino F. It's a 6/6 with trample with crew 2. Enter the battlefield. Siege Rhino. I can actually see this card being played in a lot of the green-black mid-range decks in Standard.
This could actually this is a better, because they were playing the demon, right? The 4-mana 6/6 demon.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the same mana
Archfiend
cost.
of the Dross.
Archfiend of the Dross. This is the same mana cost, but this as a creature isn't terrible. And you know, the 2 power stuff in the Golgari mid-range decks isn't really relevant because it's like there's like 3/2s, there's 1/1s, there's 3/4s, there's all those sort of things. Power 2 isn't really a thing, but you could crew this with 2 Llanowar Elves. You could crew this with your remind me, Luis, of the two drop that.
The Mosswood is it Dread Knight?
Yeah, that's it. Mosswood Dread Knight. Yeah, you can crew it with that. You know, but the fact that it ETBs and does something, it's pretty good. You know, gaining life in sort of an attrition sort of game where you're a lot of times with the mid-range decks against aggro decks is, you remove their threats, but your life is taking a hit. A lot of lands in Standard now do you a lot of damage, so being able to top up 3 life can actually quite stabilize you quite fairly. And yeah, I'm not sure if there's in these colors there's ways of like blinking it or blinking the effect. I don't think so, but a 6/6 with trample that's a huge booty to deal with.
Yeah,
massive booty.
It's interesting because it gives the Golgari decks an extra way of dodging Sunfall or Wrath effects, which is always a struggle. Yeah, you have your man lands, but you're often playing 4 of the Restless lands, and now with the Gloom, the Verges coming through, you don't need them as much. So Debris Beetle gives you that effect of dodging things while still burning life from the opponent, and it's an effective haste creature in later turns, right? Where you drop whatever little weenie you have, and you instantly crew an attack. Not an easy thing to block. I'm excited to see how it works. And
yeah,
it dodges most of the removal that's currently played, right? Go for the Throat doesn't hit it. Get Lost doesn't hit it. Cut Down doesn't hit it. It's quite good at dodging a lot of things. Because Get Lost is only enchantments, planeswalkers, and when it's a creature you can, but you can't hit it when it's just sitting there. You have to wait until it's crewed.
Yeah, it's a quite a substantial threat that gets around board wipes, etc. The fact it's got evasion is really good. The fact it's got a big body is really good. The fact it gives the Golgari decks reach too, because often enough, the mid range decks, you'll get the opponent. I mean, I lost a game against a mono white control deck the other day where he was actually on 3 life or
Yep.
2 life until he stabilized. And I was like, I just couldn't push that last bit of damage. But something like this in access to a mid range deck could really, it can. I mean, it's 6 life. It's a 6 life swing. You know what I mean?
It gives you that reach. It's what you want.
Mm-hmm. Reach, and then obviously the evasion with the trample too. So yeah, it's exciting. This was Freddie's little baby. Freddie liked this one.
Yeah.
He just saw like what looked like dung getting rolled, and Freddie was like, "Yes, I relate to this."
Just like the Pokemon.
Just like Pokemon. What an awful card game that is.
Oh god, you're gonna have all the Pokemon guys come and yell at us now.
Well, I liked Pokemon for a bit, and then I realized my deck does the exact same thing over and over and over again with no change.
Nice.
Sorry, Pokemon. Your card
So a
game's still
combo deck.
Your card game's still fun. Next card, Luis. No, sorry, it's Freddie. You were going to say something about the Beetle?
Yeah, so the Beetle. So rather than just a green black mid range deck, I can actually see this in like the old green black ramp decks what Team Channel Fireball played, like as another threat.
Okay.
Seth Banfield, yeah.
Yeah. One of the decks, as I said, maybe like a new version of green black, like an aggro version where you can just play less mid-range threat and just be more focused on aggro. Like you can play Slasher rather than Mothra Dread Knight and the 3/4 Merfolk. You can just be like very low to the ground and have this as like your finisher.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not unreasonable.
I mean, on the card itself, there's like there's essentially 9 damage worth of text in over the course of a turn or two. So yeah, it's exciting. It's cool. Siege Rhino people love that card back on standard. So this is clearly a nod to that.
And then there's this next card, which is an interesting one. I don't know how good it's gonna be in standard. I am more interested to see if we can make it work elsewhere. Because when I first saw it, it was mediocre. And that's Ketramos, the New Dawn. It reads really well. It reads cool at first. But then you realize that... So I'll read out the full card first. It's a 3 mana, black, white, and 1. Legendary creature god. Menace, lifelink, indestructible. Ketramos can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile. And whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from your graveyard and or the battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose 1 life. And it's a 4/4.
Mm-hmm.
It's that last bit of it being your turn to exile something that always gets me. It's what made me go off the card a bit. However, there's some really interesting things and options. Recently, we've been looking at the frog decks, the traditionally Dimir. A lot of people have been going towards splashes of white Esper for pest control in Modern. Ketramos fits in that. And Ketramos works really well with the cards that you're using. Psychic Frog, you can exile on command whatever cards you want. When you play...
You go infinite, right, with Frog?
Not infinite, but you can draw a lot, depending how many cards you have in exile.
When 1 or more cards are exiled from your graveyard under the battlefield.
Yeah, so you use your Frog, you activate it, exiling 3 cards, you draw a card.
Oh, right, okay,
You don't draw 3, you draw... That'd be ridiculous.
3, you draw 3, that is like...
Yeah, and if Ancestral was attached to the Frog with this, that'd be insane, but no. It's whenever you exile 1 or more cards, very specifically for that. But it works with Frog, so you can go exile 3, give it flying, draw a card. Maybe you find a card that lets you put more stuff in the bin, or you just have more things in the graveyard, and you can keep going for a little while, draw quite a few cards. And the life loss is offset by Ketramos having lifelink and Menace and all this stuff, so it's really easy for it to connect. And it works really well with Psychic Frog because you're exiling cards, so that hitting 7 exiled cards is quite easy. Or even something like Oculus, when you hardcast it, you're exiling 6 right then and there. Or with Murktide, you're exiling 5. It's relatively easy to hit what you need to. And because Ketramose is a 3-mana card, it fits perfectly into the Unearth package. You can go turn 2 Frog, untap, discard this, unearth this guy, and get going.
Would this work within the effects of Leyline of the Void or Rest in Peace?
So as long as the card is going from
the graveyard to exile
into the graveyard from exile or from the battlefield into exile, it works.
So if it died if something died or got removed on the battlefield with Leyline of the Void, it would work. However, if you to mill a card, for example,
that wouldn't work.
Or you to discard a card, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. No, it can't be from hand. It has to be from the battlefield. So with Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void, and those permanent effects, has to be something that's on the battlefield that goes to the graveyard. If you could just cast your spells and just draw cards, that'd be insane.
So good. I mean, this card is always like £30 pop pre-order right now. I checked before on Troll Trader. This card is spiking really hard. There's people are really interested about it. Dak Faden. I saw an interesting brew with him today, actually, on the date of recording this podcast, where he had I think it was like a zoo deck with Scion of Draco and everything. Playing Relic of Progenitus.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, you exile cards from your own bin every turn, trigger.
Yeah, it's one of the easier ways. The thing that always I struggle with is that your turn thing. So in formats like Standard, you have your Ghost Vacuums and you can start exiling and drawing cards, but then you realize that your Ghost Vacuum really wants to be kept up if your opponent is going to do something on their turn. You know, because you use your Ghost Vacuum and then you pass the turn. They go, okay, I'll put something into my bin with one of my 1,000 cards that do it, reanimate it, and your Ghost Vacuum is tapped, and you look like an idiot. So it's those kind of things you really have to be careful of. They're traps, don't fall into. Card's really cool. It reads interestingly. I don't know how good it's going to be because it's still a 3-mana card, so it's not particularly easy or fast to cast.
It's got big hype on it.
It has a lot of hype.
Freddie, what are your thoughts on this?
I actually think it's absolutely nuts because Cauldron is the deck in Standard, like Insidious Fruit Cauldron decks.
Yeah.
So this is another way for the Cauldron decks just to go, okay, I'm going to exile a card, I'm going to use this ability, I'm now going to draw a card. And there's like, you're now getting extra value just by Cauldroning now with the new god. Like, I can now just dig deeper now and get further into my game plan.
Yeah, that works well with the Abzan kind of Cauldron deck. That would be really interesting to see.
Mainly 4-color.
4-color.
4-5-color Cauldrons are actually a real deck scarily.
Oh, I don't know about that. 4 or 5 colors in Standard. I'll believe you, but I don't think it's good. We'll find out.
I mean, Domain's a deck, right?
Yeah, but Domain plays a bunch of tap lands. And it has very powerful over-the-top effects. Let me know how that goes.
But there's a lovely Overlord called Overlord of the Green One.
Of the Hauntwoods, yeah.
That says, I now have Domain by casting this card and triggering its ETB.
Yeah, we'll see. Because if we're talking proper 4/5 colors, I don't know. Because Domain doesn't actually play 4/5 colors. It plays 3 colors, and it has Domain. That's how it does it. Because of the Hauntwoods. Or even the Jund one, right? It doesn't play more than the Jund colors, but it has Domain. So we got to be very careful what we mean by 4 or 5 colors, I suppose.
That's fair. I can actually see this in the white-black, the Aristocrat, let's bring everything back from our bin deck as a sideboard plan. Against Rest in Peace, it's like if I'm trying to combo off and you rip me, I can just play this and start hitting you as my backup plan. And if I have this in play, and if you rip me, I'm going to draw cards.
That's true, actually. So if you are affected by Rest in Peace and you know they exile loads of stuff, or you fill the bin, this is actually a game plan that could work. You know,
it's very good into that.
Menace, lifelink. It's got evasion, it's got lifelink, and it's very hard to kill. Like this doesn't die to the same effects that Hazoret does. You know, it can't get -3 read. It can't get well, I suppose it could get like bounce and stuff. But
I know to do the Affliction still works, bounce still works, but it's much harder to remove than Hazoret because it's a 4/4.
Yeah.
Also, I can actually see this being played in the Oculus decks. The blue-white Oculus, we can just shift it into Esper Oculus. Yeah, like you're now going to be playing a bit more of a Bella removal package now, I think. Like, Esper, in my opinion, will maybe the way forward of the evolution.
Yeah, do a similar thing that that Modern's thinking of doing. Try it in Standard. I could see it. It's possible.
Yeah.
You could mainboard your some ghost vacuums and see how that goes as well. I think it's interesting.
Mainly sideboard, because there was recently a Japanese Open, and the most top white card was Rest in Peace in that Open.
Makes sense.
Cool. So, you happy with that one, boys?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Excellent. So, I'm going to talk about this one now
Josh's favorite card.
because this is my favorite card from this set, and we actually talked about this card before the podcast. And the more we read, the more we realized how good this card is once you actually digest it for what it says. So this is Oil Deep Gear Hulk. Now the Gear Hulks have come back. You've got representative Gear Hulks from pretty much every color combination, but those other color combinations are basic and boring, and we're not interested. But we like our Demir, don't we, Luis? Yeah. So for 2 blue and 2 black, you can get yourself an Oil Deep Gear Hulk. Now it's an artifact creature, so it can't be go 3 forward. More importantly, it has lifelink and ward 1. A bit of protection, bit of self-protection, and it also hedges your game plan in the. We've already identified this pod how quite useful lifelink is. With pain lands in standard as well as the aggro decks, etc. When this creature enters, look at target player's hand. Target player, you can be a target. You may choose a card from it. A card. Guess what's a card, Luis?
Lands.
Lands are cards. If you do, that player discards that card, then draws a card. Now, this is a tool, and this is a tool because of 2 things. One, it can improve your hand because you can reveal your own hand to yourself.
Much like Josh, a tool.
Yes, I want to discard my hand because my land because I'm flooding, and I'm going to draw hopefully a useful card. But also, if you're against a combo deck or a deck with high synergy or something that a deck that relies on, or you don't want to see a particular card from someone's hand, or you just want to remove a land from their hand, for example, you can then look at their hand and you can almost I forget the name of the card with flash from the days of old.
Vendilion Click.
Vendilion Click them. Yeah, mate, imagine if this card flashed. If the card flashed,
that'd be disgusting. It'd be really disgusting.
But yeah, so this is a really cool card. Like the more you read it, the more you realize it's like at first you think, oh, you look at target opponent's hand and you discard a non-land card and you draw a card. It's a bit poop. And then you realize actually there's more.
It's really interesting in where it fits and what it can do, right? So it fits into the turn just before Sunfall against the white decks, which is an important card to play around. And this kind of plays around that, right? You can discard the Sunfall, they draw another card, and hopefully that card doesn't Sunfall. You can better your hand, filter your hand from drawing too many lands or too many crap cards that you don't need, remove the cards that you don't need in certain matchup. Maybe you're against control and you remove your cut down for something that's actually better. So it has a lot of text there. Lifelink is great against the red decks. Ward makes it hard to remove. The biggest issue is obviously the cost of the card. It is 2 blue, 2 black.
Yeah.
Very restrictive on what decks can have it. I'm thinking of it more as a control style deck that will want this card. It is possible to be played in the mid-rangey decks, but right now the mana bases have 3, maybe more Soulstone Sanctuary or other colorless lands, and that can be a bit of an issue when trying to cast this card. So you have to be very sure of what you're doing with it, and it's also in the 4 mana slot. That's the same as Kaito, which often played as a 3-drop, sure. And Enduring Curiosity, which are both ridiculously strong cards in the 4-drop slot. Can this really take it over? I'm not so sure. Josh, you were thinking of it more of a sideboard piece, maybe 1 or 2 in the sideboard.
So there was a card that was played, Atari or Arati, or whatever his name is, where you enter the battlefield.
Urtai,
that's it. Yeah, enter the battlefield. It has flash, that thing right there that you've got conveniently. And then you can destroy something or counter something. They draw a card. It's sort of similar in that spot. Obviously, not having flash is a thing. Obviously, like with Urtai, you don't get to see the opponent's hand, and you can't actually get the card cycling or the mana efficient card cycling in your own hand like you can sorry.
You can destroy your own thing with Urtai and draw a card. So it's
Yeah,
similar in that way.
but then you've invested mana into casting the thing that you want to destroy. So overall, it's like, say if you destroy a 2-drop, it's like 6 mana you've cost to draw a card, but this is only 4 mana.
This is a really long way to say it's not really like Urtai, but go on.
Well, it is a little bit.
No, it's
It's the same. So my point on that is Urtai was played as a one-off in sideboards. I can see this being a one-off in sideboards.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable, and the fact that it dodges most of the premium removal is really important. Doesn't die to Go for the Throat. Doesn't die to Nowhere to Run. Doesn't die to Anoint with Affliction. Quite important things that it dodges. And going from there is very effective. Being Ward makes it awkward for the white removal spells as well, because they're obviously a little higher costed usually. So I really want to see if this card can make some waves. It's a very exciting card. I think it's really cool. And have you seen the alternate art of it? I think it looks pretty sick.
Yeah, I tried to pre-order some alt arts, but I couldn't. They wouldn't let me do it. So I just took the normal ones. But I'll definitely be picking up some alt arts, particularly if they see play in any other formats, because I like my full arts and like Legacy and stuff. So are you happy with this card? So there's our 5 cards. Are you happy with them all, lads? Do you want to add anything else?
With the Gear Hulk, I can actually see it in a blue-black reanimator deck.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting.
There are like fringe decks on the arena ladder. Some reanimator decks look cool, and I think this is a very good enabler for going. I have a big fatty in my hand, cast the Gear Hulk, put the fatty in the bin, draw a card, and then I can reanimate it next turn on curve.
That's actually quite interesting, yeah. Because the reanimation spells in standard are, I think, 4 or 5 mana.
5.
There's Zombify for 4. There is one that costs 5, but it costs 3 less if you target a 3-drop or less. Can never remember what it's called. And then there is the...
Oh, that's what the Demir Oculus deck was playing, right?
Yeah. And then there's the 2 that Oculus Blue-White plays that are 1 mana and 2 mana for 3 drops and less only.
This could actually make the Demir Oculus deck better.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
If it plays
I don't
that
dislike the idea.
Yeah.
Totally.
Quite a bit going on with these cards. These are obviously our favorites. They're not by any means the best cards in the set or anything like that, guys. But this is what we've really enjoyed. And we had an honorable mention as well, which is a lot of people are excited for, because they finally actually completed a cycle this time, which is always amazing news to hear. The Verges, all the enemy Verges, are the ones they printed now. Funnily enough, the Gear Hulks are actually the ally Gear Hulks, just like the previous Verges were. Whereas the new Verges are now all the enemy ones. So I wonder if maybe we'll somehow get more Gear Hulks. And I'm really excited to see that they're doing that. It's really nice to complete a cycle. Makes the mana much better. I know a lot of the green-black players were dying for better lands because they have to play so many tap lands because of their crappy mana base. And they made it the right way around as well. Green first, which is what they needed.
Yes. So you've got the Wastewood Verge, which is the Golgari one. Green is the color it uses, which is exactly right. You want to be able to cast your land where else on one. You got the Willow Rush Verge, which is taps for blue and green, and blue is the primary color, ideal for the sort of blue green terror decks. That you can actually use to cast cantrips, etc. Bleachbone Verge, which is black and a white, taps for the black first. Ideal turn 1 duresses, etc. That you want the black mana. River Pyre Verge, it's the Izzet version, so it's red and blue. Red comes in as the primary color, ideal for your removal spells. And then you've got Sun Billow. Sorry, my dyslexia has kicked in even more today. Sun Billow Verge, it's white and red, and white is the primary color, so you can cast your low to the ground threats if needed, etc. Freddie, are you excited by these lands, Freddie? Fredwardo?
Of course I am, yeah. I'm actually looking forward to the green-black one, white, black, and green-blue. One.
I actually pre-ordered the Golgari ones and the blue-green ones. They're the ones I pre-ordered.
I want to get the red blue ones, but I think it's one of the worst ones because it's red first, not blue first, and it makes me really sad.
Yeah, you can't cast your sleight of hands off that bad boy. Not yet, anyway. Not when it's for turn 1.
Interesting. I think a Jeskai control deck is actually quite possible from these new versions being printed. Some really interesting things to see there.
Jeskai's already being pushed as an archetype, particularly in the Oculus space. I've seen Jeskai colors being teetered on, and I think these mana bases really help that.
And if you look at it, we have Lightning Helix.
The only problem with the 3 mana decks in Standard is you've got to play a lot of the fast lands, a lot of the pain lands as well, and they don't have a land type, which is an issue because with these you have to play either surveil lands or basics. And if you're playing just basics and surveil lands in a 3-color deck, you're either playing a really slow grinding 3-color deck, or you are not. You're very heavy into one color, or you've if you're playing green, you've got bushwhack, etc., which you can actually use to tutor for the exact land you need. But then again, at turn 2, you've only got access to the 2 of the 3 mana, and I think the 3 mana decks, these are awkward, but these are perfect. Like, these are amazing for 2 mana decks.
Absolutely.
Really smooths out the mana base because you're playing a lot of basics. So that's our card choices. I just want to the aesthetics of the deck. I want to talk about the aesthetics of the deck, of the format, because I've not been excited by the aesthetics. Like, to me, the race and like memeage, you had Thunder Junction, which was like cowboy-esque. You've got this now, which is like
cyberpunk.
A little bit. This is cyberpunk is more like 60 seconds.
It feels like Star Wars, like pod racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always fast forward that scene, and I love Star Wars. I mean, the Phantom Menace, like, it had the pod racing scene, which is a bit cringe, but it did have Duel of the Fates, which was very.
It had some cool stuff. Probably the worst one of them all, but still had some cool stuff.
Yeah, it had some cool stuff. I mean, you can't beat Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan.
Some Liam Neeson. Oh yeah.
Do you know? I know we're going off topic here, but I have to talk about it. Do you know if I had to choose a color of lightsaber, it would be Qui-Gon's green lightsaber, because I just think it's just class.
It is very class.
Qui-Gon, I liked Qui-Gon a lot.
You should grow a ponytail out like him.
Mate, I've not had a haircut in ages, and we're going off tangent here. Anyway, aesthetics of Aether Drift. Now, I wasn't a massive fan of it, and when they released the gold background cards, I thought, what is that? That is just making me want to vomit in my socks. I didn't like it at all. However, Luis, there has been videos released of those gold cards, probably more so now after this pod is released, where they actually look real good, like
cool
really,
in person.
like the foiling pops, like they look rich in color. Like the yellow isn't like vomit colored, honking, disgusting, chem-light, horrible color. It's actually like pops. It looks real clean. Like, I'm very impressed by the color in there, and it sort of saved the aesthetics of the format. Not saved it, sorry. It's made me think better of the aesthetics of the format because the yellow background cards are disgusting, but the actual feel of the format isn't there for me.
Yeah, I'm not excited for it too much myself. I agree.
It's very memey. It's like Rakdos in a cowboy hat meme.
Well, maybe this is what they're getting us used to, that, because with all the secret layers coming out, and there's going to be standard legal secret layer cards for like the universes beyond. SpongeBob, obviously he's not going to be, but Final Fantasy.
I'm okay with like, this is a secret layer for Final Fantasy. You've got people riding chocobos. You got Kaito on a chocobo, for example. But fine, like it's a Final Fantasy set, but this is just like they're just creating memes for like I don't know. It doesn't seem. I don't know.
It's not the worst, right? We've been to what's it called? Aether Revolt, all that kind of stuff before. And it's fine. I can't remember the new name of it. It's not Kaladesh anymore. What's it called again? Anybody remember?
Do you remember Freddie?
I can't remember. Sorry, guys, I can't remember the name of the new thing. But we've been there before, so some of the aesthetic is
Avishkar.
I'll believe you. Bless you.
It says it right there. Avishkar on my computer screen. It's right there. Look.
I don't trust a single way you pronounce things, so I'll believe it.
Avishkar.
But yeah, we've been there before, so I'm okay with it. And I'm happy to see where it leads. Hopefully, this is fine in terms of how it plays as well. Some of the stuff looks a little funky, but I'm really excited. I think pre-release is going to be really fun. The start your engine is going to be hilarious at pre-release, I think. It's going to cause a lot of chaos and a lot of max speeds and a bunch of random BS happening, which is really, I think is always fun. That's what pre-release is for, in my opinion.
I feel like Freddie with his Red Bulls.
Yeah,
Freddie, what
exactly.
what Texas Standard are you excited to play after this release?
Something with bloodgasting as well.
Ooh,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
Bloodgast
Bloodgast is legal. I completely forgot. That's going to be exciting.
So when I said I'm playing a green-black aggro deck, I am playing Bloodgast in the green-black aggro deck.
Insidious Roach is going to pop off with Bloodgast.
Oh my god, yes. I'm going to brew so hard.
That's exciting.
Lads, I'm happy with this podcast.
Me too.
Next week, I have actually a subject I really want to talk about that was brought to me by a local friend, which is actually really interesting. And Luis, you don't know the next subject of the podcast because I haven't told you yet. Because how this podcast works is I think of an idea and then I say, Luis, meet me at this time. And Luis just knows Magic better than me, so he just doesn't need to plan. He just spins his knowledge. That's how Battle Chats works.
Essentially, Josh just tells me something at random, messages me. This is what we're doing. I'm like, are you sure? Yes. Okay, and we just go with it.
And then it happens. It does the thing.
It's fun. It's very fun.
I think the last podcast we were like, oh, "Are you sure this is going to work?" I was like, "Luis, just press record."
And it's always fun.
I think it's working. I think it's working. Anyway, Freddie, thank you for coming on, and Luis, thank you also for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks, Josh. That was Battle Chats, brought to you by us here at Battle Chats HQ, I guess, and the Chad Magic team, and obviously lovely Freddie. Thank you everyone for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your favorite card from the set. Let us know what are you most excited to play with. And tell us why Josh is wrong with every Magic opinion he has as well. Thank you very much, guys. Have a wonderful pre-release, and see you guys next week on the next episode of Battle Chats. Bye.
Say bye, Freddie.
Bye.
Thank you.